Now I would like to welcome to the stage for Fireside Chat number 2, Teresa Parejo, Head of Sustainability, Iberia. Teresa is a senior executive of Iberia and thought leader in sustainability, working at the highest levels of corporate and global policy, transforming companies for a better world. Welcome. Nice to have you here. And let me welcome also our moderator, Carla Piluso from Lanzadera. Welcome, Carla. As you know, Lanzadera is the business accelerator of Marina de Empresas, a fully private capital project driven by Juan Roy, president of Mercadona. Our initiative, or the initiative of Lanzadera is to help entrepreneurial leaders create efficient companies that add value and establish a solid business model based on productive work and leadership. Carla is a specialist and project manager, a private capital accelerator expert, and the floor is yours. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you very much. I'm really grateful to participate in this event, and especially to interview you.
Thank you
I will make few questions and leave you all the time to answer to all of them.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thank you. So first of all, we would like to speak about decarbonization, obviously. So what are the main obstacles we are facing in achieving decarbonization in the airline sector?
Yes, so thank you very much. So for the aviation sector to decarbonize its activity is quite complex. It's not that it's impossible, it is possible, otherwise I wouldn't be here. But it's honest to say that it's more difficult than other sectors. And this is because it's a hard-to-abate sector, meaning that in order to decrease or reduce the emissions, we need to use technologies that are still in development, and because we cannot electrify the activity. You can use, perhaps in the near future, you can see small airplanes for very few passengers, but this is not the solution for the sustainability of the aviation, and mainly because 80% of emissions from aviation come from long-haul distances. And this is where the problem is. So you cannot achieve a sustainable transport without counting with aviation, because aviation flies fast and achieves different things than, let's say, other ways of transportation. So having said that it's a difficult task, it's not impossible. Currently, aviation represents around 2 to 3% of total emissions around the world. But as I said, this is not the. You can think that this is not a problem because it's so small, such a small portion. But the truth is that because it's so difficult to decarbonize, this percentage will eventually increase with respect to others that currently represent more, but will be able to decarbonize faster. So knowing that this is such a big challenge, the IAG group, where Iberia belongs, is part of, we were the first group of airlines to commit to the objective of achieving net zero emissions in the year 2050, and this is to align our strategy to the international treaties, the Green Deal, and the best state of the science. So that states that in order to be able to control the global temperature below 1.0 degrees, you need to be net zero emissions in the year 2050. And how can you do that? That would be the question. Yeah. How can aviation achieve such a big challenge? And this is quite difficult, but easy at the same time, because it's through three main measures. It's more complex than that, but in a nutshell would be three measures. One, the renewal of the fleet. Each time that you change or buy a new aircraft. That one is so light, much lighter, more efficient than the previous one, and can achieve an efficiency between 15% up to 35%. For example, our A350, the big airplanes that we use to fly to Latin America or the US, that's up to 35% more efficient than the previous one, the 340s.
Okay.
So that's a huge amount of reduction. On top of that, we have another measure with the efficiency of the operations, which means that with different approaches to the airports, depending on how modern they are, if this is allowed or not, but you can do continuous descents, or you can use one engine when taxiing through at the airport before you start to fly, and many other things like measuring the weight of the flight, etc., etc. And that can account up to 10% reduction. And on top of that, and more interesting, and this is the key to a sustainable aviation now and in the future, is the use of the so-called sustainable aviation fuels. This is kind of magic because, and I say magic because this is a fuel that can be mixed with the current kerosene, and that means that you can use it in today's aircrafts without changing any design, with the same engines, with the same airport infrastructure. You don't need to change anything.
Okay.
You just plug it in. It's drop-in technology. And so then you would say, and before I say that, so with these sustainable aviation fuels, you can achieve from around 60% up to even in the future 100%, or even have net zero emissions or negative emissions in terms of life cycle. Because in the way, since the production and until you burn the kerosene, the fuel, that's this life cycle, and you can really reduce emissions because of the materials that have previously reduced or captured some CO2, and because you reduce the emissions in production, let's say, because it's locally produced, you are not using transportation through vessels, through road transportation, etc. So it's a whole cycle reduction, and it's quite interesting. The problem, as I was saying, with these sustainable aviation fuels, you would say, then let's use it 100%.
Yeah.
So there are two main restraints. First, but this is the easy one. Sorry, I'm saying everything like...
No, don't worry about it. Obviously, I will not have to ask many more questions, but it's really interesting.
No, I was saying, so the first one would be that because of the security in the operation is the main thing in aviation. First, each new thing that you incorporate in a flight, you need to check and certify. So that's a long process. So until now, there's a certification for using 50% of mixture with SAF. So we could use 50% of SAF in all flights.
Okay.
And the second one, but this is not possible, I would say why. And then the second one, and is why we're not using 50% of SAF already in our flights, is because the production is not yet ready. It's just starting. This is a new industry that just started, that needs to develop and increase its production. And so for now, the main producers in Spain and around the world are starting to produce, but they need to do enormous investments in order to change their infrastructures to accommodate this new type of product. These products are two types. One come from bio-waste, meaning oils, cooking oils, agricultural waste, forest waste, urban waste. That's the bio with different technologies. Some of them are more developed than others. and the future of the production of SAF is the synthetic fuels or e-fuels. And these are produced with carbon capture from the atmosphere or from industries, and then combined with green hydrogen, you can produce SAF as well. So this is a humongous opportunity for Spain for sure, because we do have everything that we need.
Okay.
We have the raw material, we have the waste, we have the territory in order to have these industries and this infrastructure, and we have, and this is very important, the renewable energy already in place. In fact, we are leaders in that. So and this is something that we've spoken with our colleagues in the producers and others, and in order to tell the government to really hurry up and don't hesitate to push this new industry, because we think it's a great opportunity for Spain. We calculated this industry, this opportunity, and we think with this study, this report calculates that in the year 2050, if we are able to develop around 30 infrastructures that would produce SAF, we would be able to generate around 56 billion euros to the GDP, and around 270,000 employments in Spain. So, and on top of that, it's an opportunity to have energy independence, which is quite important at this moment.
So, what do you expect from the public sector administration to make this to happen?
So, that is key. We need alliances. It's impossible for any industry, for any company to achieve these enormous challenges by itself. It's a matter of alliances, and this is public-private alliances and with the public sector. And this is quite important. And in fact, this is because we're not the smartest or the only ones that have pointed out this opportunity. There are others in the world that have looked at this as an opportunity, as a new industry that does not exist yet, and can make it like a completely different transformation linked to the ecological transition. Other places like in the US or in the UK or in Asia have already started to collaborate with private companies, and they have developed regulation to really attract investment. And so we are worried that this opportunity will fade away if we're not hurry up. So we have precisely presented another report that, taking the previous one where we signaled the opportunity, we explained and detailed the potential measures that could make this opportunity a reality. Regulatory measures, economic measures, and transversal measures to call for a global strategy for SAF in Spain.
Okay. So what specific actions can be taken in regard to operational efficiency of the aircraft fleet to reduce environmental impact, and what improvements have you observed?
Well, as I said, so the environmental impacts of aviation come mainly from these three measures that I just mentioned, but the most important one is, and the greatest opportunity comes from the sphere of the development of SAF. These comes from new technologies that are still being developed. Some of them are more advanced than others. Let's say the most important, the one that is currently being used is the so-called HEFA, which comes from cooking oils. And this is something that can totally change the situation of aviation. Still, though, there's a lot to be done, and we are calling for these, for the alliances and the government to step in and develop the measures that are needed.
Okay. So speaking about sustainability during the travel experience, how is Iberia incorporating it into customer service?
Yeah, that's another piece of interest in our strategy, because the main problem of aviation, if we talk about sustainability, of course, is emissions. But there are other aspects of our strategy that are also important, not as relevant, of course, but also important. And one of them is the customer journey, and everything that is related of the service that we show and offer our clients on board. And these, we have to pay attention then to the use of plastics. There's, of course, a regulation to reduce the single-use plastics. That's something, of course, we are dealing with. But there are some plastics that you need to use in order to secure the health of our clients,
Yes.
and for reasons that are so stupid. Let's say, for example, it's kind of silly. This glass perhaps is more sustainable, but needs to have some plastic around. Otherwise, it will disappear when you put the water inside. So we are still looking for solutions, and in general, everyone is, that are, of course, not super expensive, but this is something that we're looking at all the time. And that relates to the waste that we generate during the flight. And during the flights, at least in those airports that allow the management of waste, we separate within the aircraft, inside, while the stewards are giving the service to our clients. We have a little chart with a little, you know, how do you say, like un carrito?
Cabot
Yeah.
with wheels.
Yeah, with wheels.
Cabot with
that
wheels.
separate the waste,
Yeah.
and so that when we arrive to the airport, they can be managed properly.
Okay.
And we have some KPIs on that in order to improve them constantly. And on top of that, we are still, at the moment, exploring. Another thing that is really worrying to us is the food waste. We are trying some solutions, digitalization, asking our customers to ask for whatever they want to be served, eat or drink during the flight ahead of time, in order to calculate how much do we have to include on board. But there's a lot of food that you need to just throw away after a flight, and we are looking for solutions through artificial intelligence as well, in order to reduce as much as possible that food waste. So there are so many things, there are so many challenges, but we are trying to find solutions for all of them.
Okay. So Iberia has collaborated as well with some organizations such as UNHCR,
The what?
ACNUR,
Oh,
okay?
yeah.
Sorry, and has worked for the integration of people at risk of exclusion. So could you tell us more about these programs and the specific impact they have had on those communities?
Yeah, so another aspect of sustainability that is also embedded in our strategy is our social impact. We are very much aware of our environmental impact, and we are doing our best and investing a lot of money as a group in order to decrease our emissions and our negative impact in the environment. But we are also looking at our impact in the social aspects of sustainability, because we know that aviation is important for the well-being of society, and we started to measure our impact. Okay. Yeah, okay.
So
we're
many
measuring our
questions.
impact, yeah.
Please finish
yeah,
your
no.
sentence. I'm sorry.
We're measuring our impact. Not only the activity of Iberia, including the collaboration of with different NGOs, but also the impact in our different routes. So we elaborated a calculator that we are certifying in order to calculate the GDP, the employment we generate, and other things. Thank you.
Well, obviously we will have to keep speaking about all of this. It's too interesting for 15 minutes. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So sorry, my apologies. The one thing that's missing sometimes in these conferences, I think it's just time to explore more, ask more questions, and have more time with our amazing speakers. But thank you again for that incredibly